what we see is in companies that are using Excel, often the use case is using Excel not necessarily as the full-on calculation engine for a TPM program, although it can do that, but we often see Excel being used by somebody that is responsible for a customer relationship, getting data from that customer, putting it into Excel to try to do the cleaning, right? They're putting it into Excel to try to map back a customer product number or a distributor product number into a manufacturer product number. And what we see is that every individual user has their own Excel sheet that they're working in, right? There isn't a good common control. So number one, if you're using Excel for this process, leverage a common template. Make sure everybody's working off the same engine, if you will, right? Everybody's using the same process. Hand in hand with that, the second bullet is it's super important to get that data in a consistent format in Excel, and it does limit what you're able to do in terms of those best practices for data acquisition, because Excel is usually a cut and paste approach, right? We're going to get data, we're going to paste it into a tab in Excel, and then we're going to run a macro on that data, right? Or we're going to run some calculations on that data. So if you're leveraging a common template, you have to have a common format on that input data to be able to paste it into Excel. So either you have to get it in a common format or you have to run something internally to build a common format. And then number three is one of the main use cases again for Excel in terms of that data cleanup is we see companies that are out there with a Excel sheet that is an output tab, right? An output workbook, and then tab upon tab upon tab upon tab of reference data that's being used for VLOOKUPs, right? And it's basically creating multiple different sets of master product data that's being used for against a VLOOKUP to then create hopefully a clean output. It's not the right way to do that because again, unless you have a common master product repository that you're using for that matching, you end up with different systems, different processes, different results. You're often introducing error because everybody's running their own Excel workbook and running comparisons against their own data sets, right? So Excel's awesome. You can completely do this in Excel. Tons of challenges, strengths, ease of use, familiarity. Oftentimes Excel becomes kind of like a default tool for analytics because you can go down to row and column, but create a pivot table, right? Create charts on top of it. The weaknesses though, just it isn't great for process control. And what it tends to introduce is siloed areas of expertise that if you have somebody on vacation, somebody on a maternity or a paternity leave, right? All of a sudden you end up with huge gaps in your process because you don't have anybody ready to go that knows how that process is being run. But again, Excel is technology and I love it, so you can completely do it there. One of the other solutions that we see leveraged are BI tools. Often the reason is simply because most organizations have a BI tool that you're leveraging, right? You have an enterprise agreement, you have licenses that are available. You can use Power BI, so let's see if it'll be fit for purpose, right? We have access to it, let's try it. Of course, BI tools are great for BI, right? They're great for visualization, they're great for analytics, and they often are easy to use for that purpose, so that you might have people on your trade spend team, you might have analysts that can go into Tableau and create their own visuals, right? And drop them out and publish them out to dashboards to other users across the organization. They enable a lot of use of data, but of course they're really, really weak on the heavy lifting of that data. You don't want to be using your BI tool to do a calculation because they rapidly become inefficient, right? They rapidly become slow. You lose control of that process on getting the accurate data into the application. So the analytics piece is a great use of the BI tool, but the actual hard part, right, the heavy lifting on data, it's just not the right solution for that. Which brings me to the ETL, which is a great solution for the heavy lifting on data, where your data is easily looked up, right, and you can create easy references. So an ETL is the absolute right type of tool to take disparate input files from all of your partners, those thousands of inputs in different formats and different file types, and combine them into one consolidated output, right? Great for that process. They can do the math, right? They can do the lookups. You could use an ETL tool to calculate your rebates, right? You could do all of that. But the challenges with them is that you end up losing kind of control of the process because the experts on the ETL tool are very rarely on your analyst teams, right? They're generally an IT resource. You're generally needing to put in IT request a ticket, right, to get any help or change for them. They're not great on the analytics piece. And honestly, at the end of the day, we would argue that there is a level to this process that isn't a simple transformation process.